Hi there, my name's Stephen O'Hara and I am telling a story today called The Fool and His Donkey. Now, I come from Cushendun and people ask me what's the best thing about living in Cushendun, and I say there's only 700 people that live here. And they say, oh, that sounds nice. What's the worst thing about living in Cushendun? And I say there's only 700 people live here. Anyhow, people always know when they come into a wee place like this that they're going to find a fool. Now, I don't know where you're watching this, but I'm sure near you there's a fool. But in Cushendun, our fool woke up one morning and he realised that his life was just incomplete. At his age, he still didn't, to that day, own a donkey. And he determined, as he opened his eyes in the morning, today was going to be the day that he was going to be the owner of a donkey. And he got out of bed and he walked into town and he went to the marketplace. And in the marketplace there was a corner of the yard roped off for the sale of donkeys. And he went over to look the animals over before he would make a purchase. And there was every kind of donkey there that you could imagine. There was long donkeys and short donkeys, black donkeys and brown donkeys. There was even a donkey with a big stripe down the middle of his back. But in the corner there was the handsomest, prettiest little donkey you ever saw, with the longest, softest, floppiest ears that were ever put on a donkey. And the fool looked at him and his heart melted and he had to have him. He did a deal with the trader and he paid for the donkey. He put a rope round its neck and he led it out of the market yard to walk it home. And being a fool, as long as the rope was tight, he never bothered to look behind him. He just was aware that he had a donkey in tow. But as he left town, there were two young fellas sitting on a wall nudging each other and trying to get up to mischief. And one of them said to the other, here, this fool would be fairly easy to part from his donkey. And the two of them hatched a plan. And what happened was, one of them went up to him and engaged him in conversation, and while he was talking at the front of the donkey, the other one slipped in behind and he took the rope off the donkey's neck and he put it round his own neck. The fool never bothered looking behind him. He finished chatting and he walked on. The rope was tight, he was confident, he still had a donkey. Leaving the other young fellow standing in the road with his donkey, which he walked back to town, sold back to the market trader and pocketed the money. And the fool ambled on and he reached home. And when he got home, he opened the gate of the farmyard, and as he went to walk in, he turned round, and lo and behold, instead of a donkey, on the end of his rope, he had a boy. Well, you could have knocked him down with a feather. He said, oh my word, what happened to you? You were a donkey when I bought you, and now you're a boy. And the boy said, oh sir, thank you so much. He says, thank you for what? He says, well, when you bought me, you broke the spell. And the fellow said, what spell? And he said, well, there was an old witch turned me into a donkey for being rude to my mother. And when you bought me, it broke the spell, and now I'm a boy again. Oh, I don't know how to thank you. And the fool says, and what am I supposed to do with you? And the boy said, anything you like. You paid for me, I'm yours. And the fool laughed and said, don't be silly. You can't own a boy. And he walked up and he took the rope off his neck. And he turned him in the road and he said, get away on home with you out of this. And the fool said goodbye. As the boy walked off, the fool looked and shouted down the road after him and said, here, promise me one thing. You will never be rude to your mother again. And the boy said, I promise. And he smiled sweetly and went on, where he joined his friend, and they had a fair old time spending the fool's money. Now the fool went on about his day's work. He brought turf in for the fire. He boiled a big pot of spuds. He sat in front of the fire after his supper and he was smoking a pipe, and he just couldn't settle because he still didn't own a donkey. And he thought, maybe after a night's sleep I'll feel better. And he went to bed, but he never slept a wink. He tossed and turned and sweated and fretted all night long. And in the morning, after only about an hour's sleep, he got up in a very bad temper and he said, by goodness, I'm telling you, I am going to own a donkey today. And he took his last few pounds that he'd saved and he walked into town and he went to the market yard. And in the market yard there was a corner that was roped off for the sale of donkeys. And the fool looked the animals over before he would make a purchase. And there was every kind of donkey there you could imagine. There were long donkeys and short donkeys and black donkeys and brown ones. There was even a donkey with a big stripe down the middle of his back. But in the corner there was the handsomest, prettiest little donkey you've ever seen. with the longest, softest, floppiest ears that were ever put on a donkey. And the fool looked at him, and his heart melted, and he walked up to the animal, and he put his arms round its neck, and he whispered, "Aren't you one silly fool? Didn't I tell you to go home and be nice to your mother?" So there you are. There's the story of the fool and his donkey.